Most people approach saving with a single idea in mind. They are told to save for a rainy day. This implies a small, manageable problem, a minor inconvenience that will soon pass, like a brief shower on a summer afternoon. So they build a small fund. They tuck away a bit of cash, thinking it will be enough to cover a flat tire, a minor, unexpected bill. This approach is well-intentioned. It feels responsible, but it is fundamentally based on a misunderstanding of the world we operate in today. That small, predictable problem is not the part that actually matters for long-term stability. The real test is not the gentle rain. It's the sudden, unpredictable storm. The financial world is not always a series of small, predictable events. Sometimes what arrives is not a light drizzle, but a financial hurricane. It is a rapid, systemic change that makes small buffers irrelevant. This is where the concept of a rainy day fund falls short. It prepares you for a problem you can easily anticipate, but leaves you exposed to larger shocks that can derail your plans. You don't need a fund built for a minor inconvenience. You need a fund built for resilience. You need a plan that acknowledges significant fast-moving disruptions and gives you the capacity to navigate them with clarity and control, not panic. The difference is more than just a name. It is a shift in mindset. An emergency fund suggests a state of alarm, a reaction to something that has already gone wrong. The word itself creates a sense of anxiety. Resilience, on the other hand, is about building a system that can absorb shocks and adapt calmly and strategically. It is proactive, not reactive. It is about having the resources and the plan in place to maintain your footing when the ground beneath you shifts unexpectedly. This isn't about hype or a promise of no problems. It's about a clear, steady framework that lasts through all seasons. This is why we call it a resilience fund. It is designed for a different purpose. It isn't just about having cash. It's about the right amount, accessible at the right time to handle significant pressures without losing momentum. The goal is to build this resource faster than you might think, starting from where you are now. There is a simple 3-step rule that makes this achievable. It requires no complex financial products or get-rich-quick schemes. It only requires a clear-headed approach to what truly provides stability. We will walk through this process calmly, step by step. To build resilience, we must first understand the system we operate within. The modern economy is defined by a simple but powerful tension. Our expenses are often fixed and predictable. Rent is due on the 1st of the month. A car payment is due on the 15th. These costs arrive like clockwork, with little room for negotiation. They create a rigid structure around our financial lives. On the other side of this equation is our income, which is increasingly variable for many people. It does not always arrive with the same predictability. This mismatch between steady outflows and unsteady inflows is the core of the modern cash flow problem. This isn't just a challenge for freelancers or business owners. Even those with seemingly stable salaries face this variability. A bonus might not materialize. Over time, hours can be cut. A corporate restructuring could delay a paycheck or change compensation structures without warning. The timing of when money comes in and when it must go out is often misaligned. This gap creates periods of vulnerability. It is during these gaps that small problems can escalate into major crises. A single, ill-timed expense can disrupt your entire financial foundation if your cash flow is already strained. The system itself creates these moments of risk, regardless of how well you budget. The problem is amplified by speed. Financial shocks rarely announce their arrival weeks in advance. They happen suddenly. A major client pays late, an appliance breaks down and needs immediate replacement. A health issue leads to an unexpected, significant bill. These events demand immediate access to cash, not promises of future income. Relying on your next paycheck is a fragile strategy because it assumes that paycheck will arrive on time and be sufficient. When a large unexpected cost collides with a temporary dip in income, the pressure becomes immense. This is the scenario a resilience fund is designed to solve, not by preventing the event, but by absorbing its immediate impact. Therefore, the strategic context is not one of constant crisis, but one of inherent variability. The goal is not to eliminate all risk, which is impossible. The goal is to build a buffer that directly addresses the structure of this problem. We need a system that acknowledges that our costs are rigid, while our income can be fluid. It must account for the unpredictable timing of financial shocks. Understanding this environment is the first step toward moving beyond the outdated rainy day model. It allows us to build a solution that is tailored to the world as it is, not as we wish it would be. The most common piece of financial advice is to save 3 months. This is say 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. On the surface, this sounds like a robust and sensible goal. It provides a large, reassuring number to aim for. However, this advice often fails in practice for a very specific reason. It frames the problem as a single, monumental task. For someone starting with little to no savings, the idea of accumulating 6 months of expenses can feel completely overwhelming. It seems so distant and unattainable that many people never even start. The sheer size of the goal becomes a barrier to taking the first step. This traditional rule also lacks nuance. It is a one-size-fits-all prescription for a highly personal problem. Does a dual-income household where both partners work in stable, high-demand fields need the same buffer as a freelance artist whose income fluctuates wildly from month to month? Probably not. The 3 to 6 months rule does not account for income stability, the nature of your expenses, or your access to other forms of credit. It treats everyone's situation as identical. This lack of specificity means the fund is often poorly matched to the actual risks a person faces. It might be too large for some, creating an unnecessary drag on their ability to invest, or dangerously small for others. Furthermore, the advice focuses exclusively on the destination, not the journey. It tells you what to build, but it offers little guidance on how to build it quickly and efficiently from zero. The implicit instruction is simply to save more, which is not a strategy. It does not help you navigate the trade-offs required to accumulate cash rapidly. How do you balance saving for this fund with paying down debt or investing for the long term? The traditional model offers no clear prioritization. This leaves people in a state of confusion, trying to do everything at once and as a result, accomplishing very little. They are left with a goal but no clear, actionable path to get there. The result is that many people either give up on the idea entirely or spend years slowly building a fund that never quite feels adequate. The process is slow, inefficient, and discouraging. It fails because it doesn't align with human psychology and doesn't provide a practical step-by-step framework. Resilience is not built by staring at a distant, intimidating peak. It is built by taking a series of deliberate, manageable steps, each one creating immediate stability. A better approach is needed, one that focuses on speed, clarity, and achieving meaningful progress from the very beginning. Now here's where this becomes practical. Before we go further, this next part matters. Mapping your critical windows and building a lean buffer are the strategic foundation. They change how you think about the problem, but thinking alone does not build a fund. The next principle is about execution, the disciplined, repeatable actions that turn the strategy into cash in the bank. This is the bridge between the what and the how. It is the part that most financial advice glosses over, but it is the single most important factor in determining whether you will succeed in building a resilience fund quickly. It is where the theory we have been discussing meets the reality of your bank account and your daily decisions. Many people understand the need for a buffer in theory. They can perform the calculations. They can identify the right type of account to use, but they get stuck when it comes time to actually divert the cash. This is because they lack a clear, aggressive plan for accumulation. They might try to save what is left over at the end of the month, but for most people, there is rarely anything left. A successful strategy does not rely on leftovers. It requires a deliberate front-loaded plan for funding the buffer. It demands a temporary but intense focus on accumulating cash until that first lean buffer target is hit. This is the distinction resilient businesses and individuals understand. They do not treat funding their stability as an afterthought. They treat it as the most urgent priority until it is complete. They know that without this buffer, every other plan, every other investment, every other goal is fragile. It is built on an unstable foundation. Therefore, they direct their resources with purpose. This does not mean you have to stop paying for everything you enjoy forever. It means you adopt a temporary focused sprint with a clear finish line, the completion of your lean buffer. This defined endpoint is what makes the temporary sacrifices tolerable and the effort sustainable. So, the next step is not just about saving. It is about creating a system for rapid accumulation. It is about answering the question, where specifically will the money come from to fund this buffer in the next 60 days, in the next 90 days? This requires an honest look at your income and your expenses, and a willingness to make short-term changes to achieve a long-term strategic advantage. This is not about deprivation. It is about prioritization. We are temporarily shifting resources from non-essential areas to the most critical area of your financial foundation. This is how you build resilience with speed. To make this framework tangible, let's walk through a clear, real-world scenario. We will apply the 3 principles of the Resilience Fund step by step. Imagine a freelance graphic designer named Alex. Alex has been freelancing for 2 years and has a growing client base, but the income is inconsistent. Some months are great, with multiple projects paying out. Other months are slow, with payment delays outside Alex's control. That income volatility creates low-grade ongoing stress. Alex understands a cash reserve is important, but feels overwhelmed by the advice to save 6 months of expenses, which looks like an impossible mountain given fluctuating cash flow. This is a common situation in today's economy. Alex's monthly expenses are mostly fixed. Rent, sometimes $500 due on the 1st, student loan, $300 due on the 10th, utilities and internet, about $200 due mid-month, groceries and transportation, $500, core non-negotiable expenses, $2,500 a month. Income is unpredictable. Good months, about $6,000. Slow months, about $2,000. The timing of payments is unreliable. That volatility is exactly why a resilience fund matters. Right now, Alex runs a very thin buffer, often using one client payment to cover immediate bills. That creates a just-in-time financing cycle. A single late payment could make rent late, triggering stress and possible penalties. The idea of saving $15,000, 6 months of expenses, feels out of reach, so Alex never tried a structured plan. Instead, Alex chases the next invoice. This situation is an ideal test for our 3-step rule. Build stability without a huge upfront sum. Our job is to guide Alex from fragility to resilience. No fear, no jargon. Calmly apply the principles, mapping the critical cash window, building a lean, accessible buffer, and designing a fast replenishment plan. With simple numbers and clear actions, Alex can build a functional safety net in months, not years. This shows how to turn a vague goal into a sharp, achievable process that creates confidence and control. The first step for Alex is to move beyond the generic idea of monthly expenses and map the specific critical cash window. This requires an honest look at the timing of outflows and the timing of inflows. Alex's largest and most rigid expense is the $1,500 rent. It's due on the first of the month. The student loan is due around the middle of the month. Utilities are due around the middle of the month. While income is unpredictable, Alex has noticed that clients often process invoices on a net 30 basis or net 45 basis. Even if work is completed in 1 month, the cash might not arrive until the middle or end of the following month, creating a significant gap. Given this reality, Alex's period of maximum financial exposure is the entire 30-day month. Unlike a salaried employee with predictable bi-weekly paychecks, a freelancer cannot assume income will arrive on a specific day. A payment expected on the 15th could easily be delayed until the 28th. Therefore, the critical cash window must be defined more broadly. For our initial buffer, we will define Alex's critical window as 45 days. This is a conservative but realistic time frame that acknowledges freelance cash flow. By defining the window as 45 days, we are no longer planning for a minor hiccup. We are planning for a significant but plausible disruption, a major client paying 45 days late. This is a far more strategic approach than picking an arbitrary number of months. It ties directly to the specific risks in Alex's business model. It transforms abstract financial anxiety into a concrete, solvable problem. The question is no longer vague. What if I don't have enough money? It becomes precise. How can I cover essential costs for 45 days if my main income is delayed? This provides immediate clarity. Alex is no longer trying to protect against all possible spending for 6 months. The focus is narrowed to covering the absolute essentials for 45 days. This is the first and most critical shift in mindset. It moves Alex from passive worry to active strategic planning. The goal is no longer an intimidating, abstract number. It is a specific, calculated target to neutralize the biggest, most immediate threat to financial stability. This clarity is the foundation for the Resilience Fund, making the subsequent steps focused and achievable. With the critical cash window defined as 45 days, the next step is to calculate the size of the lean buffer. This is Principle 2 in action. We are not aiming for a massive fund. We are aiming for a sufficient and rapidly achievable one. Alex's core, non-negotiable expenses are $2,500 per month. Rent, $1,500. Student loans, $300. Utilities, $200. Basic food and transport, $500. We are deliberately excluding discretionary spending. The purpose of the lean buffer is to ensure survival and stability, not to maintain a certain lifestyle during a cash crunch. The focus is on what must be paid. To calculate the 45-day lean buffer, we simply find the cost of essentials for that period. A 30-day period costs $2,500, so a 15-day period costs half of that, $1,250. Therefore, the target is $2,500 plus $1,250 for a total of $3,750. This number is the strategic target. It covers a month and a half of essentials and shields against a likely shock, a delayed client payment. But crucially, it's not the overwhelming $15,000 6-month target. The $3,750 goal feels concrete and achievable. This lean buffer is designed for speed of accumulation and sufficiency. It directly addresses the problem identified in the first step. If a major client's payment is delayed by 45 days, Alex can pay rent on time. Alex can keep the lights on. Alex can handle other essential obligations without panic. This lets Alex keep working from a position of calm control, not desperate reactivity. Now we arrive at the engine of the system. Principle 3, designing the fast replenishment plan. This is how Alex will build the $3,750 lean buffer from a starting point of nearly zero. The plan requires a temporary but aggressive combination of reducing outflows and, if possible, increasing inflows. This is a short-term sprint with a clear finish line. The goal is to generate a significant cash surplus over the next 90 days. Alex sits down and identifies specific temporary cuts. This is not about permanent sacrifice. It is about a strategic, time-bound reallocation of resources for a high-priority mission. The plan is written down to ensure commitment and clarity. First, Alex analyzes discretionary spending. The review reveals about $400 per month spent on dining out, multiple streaming services, and other non-essential subscriptions. For the next 90 days, Alex commits to pausing all subscriptions and reducing dining out to a single occasion per month, freeing up an estimated $350 in cash flow each month. This is a conscious trade-off. The short-term convenience of streaming and restaurants is exchanged for the long-term stability that the Resilience Fund will provide. Because it is a 90-day plan with a clear objective, the sacrifice feels manageable and purposeful, not like a permanent punishment. Next, Alex looks at the income side. While taking on a huge new project is not feasible, Alex realizes there is capacity for one small, quick turnaround project each month, perhaps a logo design or a social media graphic package that could reliably bring in an extra $400. This is specifically designated as, Resilience Fund work, combining the $350 from temporary cuts with the $400 from this extra project creates a monthly surplus of $750. This is the replenishment engine. At this rate, Alex can accumulate $2,250 in just 3 months. To get the rest of the way, Alex decides to allocate the next full payment from a mid-sized client, around $1,500, directly to the fund. This written plan provides a clear roadmap. Over approximately 3 to 4 months, Alex can build the entire $3,750 lean buffer. The plan is concrete. $350 from cuts, $400 from a small side project per month, plus one dedicated client payment. This level of specificity eliminates decision fatigue and makes the process nearly automatic. Every dollar has a job. This same plan will be reactivated any time the fund is used in the future. It is a repeatable system for building and rebuilding stability. This transforms Alex from someone who is constantly reacting to financial events to someone who has a proactive system for managing them. Let's fast forward 4 months. Alex has successfully executed the plan. A high-yield savings account, separate from the primary business checking account, now holds $3,750. The sense of relief and control is palpable. The constant low-grade anxiety about money has subsided, replaced by a quiet confidence. Just as this new stability sets in, the exact scenario the fund was built for occurs. A major client whose $4,000 payment was expected on the 25th of the month sends an email explaining that due to an internal accounting change, all vendor payments will be delayed by 30 days. In the past, this news would have triggered immediate panic. Before building the resilience fund, this event would have been a catastrophe. With rent due in less than a week, Alex would have been forced into a desperate scramble. This might involve asking for an advance from another client, using a high-interest credit card to cover the gap. The stress would have been immense, likely affecting the quality of other ongoing work. The entire business would feel like it was on the verge of collapse, all because of one external event, completely outside of Alex's control. This is the fragility that the Resilience Fund is designed to eliminate completely. With the Resilience Fund in place, the reaction is entirely different. Upon receiving the email, Alex feels a moment of frustration, but not panic. The system is ready. Alex calmly logs into the separate high-yield savings account, transfers $2,500, enough to cover the next month's rent and other essential bills, into the business checking account. The problem is solved. Rent will be paid on time. The business will continue to operate smoothly. There is no need for desperate emails, no need to take on expensive debt, no sleepless nights. The financial shock has been completely absorbed by the buffer, exactly as intended. This is the practical meaning of resilience. It is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of a system to handle them. The fund acted as a shock absorber, insulating Alex's financial life and business operations from the external disruption. The event is now merely a logistical issue to be managed, not a full-blown crisis to be feared. The value of the fund is not just the $3,750 in the account. It is the clarity, control, and peace of mind it provides. It allows the business owner to remain a strategic operator even when faced with unexpected challenges, instead of becoming a victim of circumstance. After successfully navigating the late payment, the process is not over. The Resilience Fund has done its job, but it is now partially depleted. The balance stands at $1,250, down from the target of $3,750. The final step is to demonstrate the power of the replenishment plan. There is no confusion about what to do next. Alex simply reactivates the written plan that was used to build the fund in the first place. This is a critical part of the system. Rebuilding the buffer is not an afterthought. It is an immediate and automatic priority. The goal is to return to a state of full resilience as quickly and efficiently as possible. The temporary cuts to discretionary spending are reinstated. The commitment to one small fund-focused project per month is renewed. The system is switched back on. The $750 monthly surplus that was previously generated is now directed toward refilling the fund. It will take exactly 3 months to replenish the $2,250 that was used. 750 times 3 equals 2,250. This clear, predictable timeline removes any uncertainty from the rebuilding process. Alex knows that in 90 days, the fund will be back to its full strength. This systematic approach prevents the fund from slowly draining over time due to multiple small hits without a clear plan for replenishment. This scenario also provides a valuable opportunity to review and adjust the system. Alex might reflect on the 30-day delay and wonder if the 45-day buffer was the right size. In this case, it was perfectly adequate. However, if the delay had been longer, or if another unexpected expense had occurred simultaneously, it might have been a closer call. This leads to a calm, strategic question. Should the lean buffer be expanded to a 60-day window now that the business is growing? This is how the Resilience Fund evolves. It is not a static number, but a dynamic tool that adapts to your changing circumstances and risk profile over time. This entire exercise From identifying the risk to building the fund, deploying it and replenishing it, solidifies a new way of operating. Alex has moved from a fragile financial state to a resilient one. The system has been tested in the real world and proven effective. This success builds a deep and lasting sense of financial control. The Resilience Fund is no longer just a theory from an essay. It is a trusted part of a broader financial system for longevity. The Resilience Fund, more than just a rainy day cash pool. The freelancer scenario is a practical example. It's a fundamental component of a larger financial system designed for longevity, not just survival. Its purpose: create a stable foundation for everything else. Absorb inevitable shocks, protect long-term plans from short-term volatility. It ensures that a single, unexpected event, a late payment, a sudden bill, a job disruption does not force you off your strategic path, building something meant to last. A business, a career, a life of financial independence. It's not built on complex products or market predictions. It's built on simple, repeatable habits. First habit: regular review of your financial structure. Critical cash windows and essential expenses are not static. They evolve with life and career changes. Revisit numbers once or twice a year to keep your buffer aligned. Second habit: stick to simple rules, like the fast replenishment plan. Turn crisis management from panic into a calm, predictable process. These habits sustain resilience over decades, long after the initial fund exists. This approach redefines your relationship with money and risk. Move from fragility, at the mercy of external events, to anti-fragility, capacity to handle disorder. The confidence this gives frees mental and emotional energy. You gain clarity to focus on bigger goals, growing your income, investing for the future, pursuing work that you find meaningful. The fund doesn't create wealth, it creates secure conditions for steady wealth building. Don't treat your lean buffer as the final destination. It's the essential first step in constructing a durable financial life. Principles: speed and clarity over sheer size, proactive system building over reactive problem solving. These are the core tenets of a resilient mindset. True financial strength: a structure that can withstand the most. That structure lets you navigate uncertainty with grace and move steadily toward long-term objectives. Building your resilience fund is the act of securing your financial foundation. Once that foundation is set and the system for replenishment is in place, you are prepared for the unexpected. You have created stability, but resilience is not a single layer deep. The next logical question for a strategic operator becomes, what do I do with capital beyond this point? How does this defensive tool integrate with an offensive strategy for growth? This is where we move from securing your present to actively building your future. The same principles of clarity and purpose that helped you build the fund now guide your decisions about what comes next. Your resilience fund is your zero-risk, high-liquidity capital. It is your shock absorber. Any cash you accumulate above and beyond your lean buffer target can now be deployed with a different purpose. This is the beginning of a growth-linked liquidity plan. This next layer of capital does not need to be instantly accessible in the same way. It can be allocated to assets with a higher potential for return, aligned with your long-term goals. This is how you transition from purely defensive footing to a balanced strategy that includes both stability and growth. The Resilience Fund gives you the safety to make these bolder, forward-looking moves. For example, a portion of your surplus cash flow, the same cash flow you use to build your fund, can now be systematically directed toward a low-cost index fund or another long-term investment. This is no longer about just saving. It is about investing from a position of strength. Because your immediate stability is already secured by the Resilience Fund, you can weather the normal ups and downs of the market without panicking. You will not be forced to sell your investments at an inopportune time to cover a sudden expense, because your fund is there to handle that pressure. This separation of capital is the key to sound, long-term wealth creation. This is the path toward building a financial structure that is truly meant to last. It starts with creating a non-negotiable buffer against shocks and then systematically layering growth-oriented assets on top of that stable base. Each component has a clear and distinct job. The system works in harmony, with the defensive layer enabling the offensive layer to perform its function without interruption. This is a far more robust and sophisticated approach than simply mixing all your money together and hoping for the best. It is a deliberate, multi-layered strategy for enduring prosperity. If you are building something meant to last, the next video on this channel builds directly on this idea.